Hi and welcome back to Broadsheet Sydney Around Town. If it's your first time here, don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss a video. I'm Emma Joyce, Broadsheet's features editor, and I'm the host of this short guide to Sydney. Let's get into it. Every year we like to put together a feature called the best cafes to open this year so far. Usually we run that in December so that we've got the full year. We also look at a midway point, which is right now, to see what's opened, what's excited us, and what kind of keeps us coming back in the daytime for lunch, for coffee, whatever the reason might be. I've got Broadsheet's Dan Cunningham and Lucy Bellbird here with me today to talk about what we're most excited about. So I love this phrase we were talking before we started recording about daytime restaurants, if you like. So which are the cafes that you keep going back to because you know it's going to be the best lunch that you can possibly get? Lucy, I'm looking at you because you have a favorite in Darlinghurst.
I really do. So it's called Takam, and it's sort of hidden behind Don't Donuts. They both share the same shop space, and you order donuts from the front window, and then you go inside to order all the delicious Filipino food. And it's one of my favorites on this list because if I buy myself Takam for lunch if I know I'm going to have a disappointing dinner. And I know that that can be the star of my eating day and it won't all be a loss.
I hate to think you'll ever have a disappointing dinner, but I really like that you have decided that this is the place that delivers for you every single day.
It really makes up for it. There aren't as many places in Sydney doing Filipino food as you necessarily would expect. And this is one that does it really, really well. My favorite dish there is the beef tapa. It sort of looks almost like an acai bowl, for lack of a better word, in that it has one of those gorgeous 63-degree eggs on the top that you can crack and make it all oozy over the top of it. You get the garlic soy marinated beef, which is so tender, never tough, really beautiful, beautiful salted duck yolk. There's even little bits of fish roe and pickles and just all these colourful, gorgeous, gorgeous pieces. It's a gorgeous meal. And I always tell myself I'm going to have half of it and then save it. And that's never happened. I always get the whole way through. Even with this like beautiful garlic, fragrant rice at the bottom, you don't want to miss a grain. It's really, really beautiful.
I love that this place has become your favourite. It makes me want to go there just so that I can try it myself. Another cafe that we've talked about on the podcast before is Parami. They are making their own onigiri and they are just bringing in the crowds every single day for delicious lunch. Why did it make our list this year?
Well, Liz and I went there the other day on a little research trip. Definitely bring the crowds. There was a little scene down there. You know, everyone's kind of like tucking into onigiri, miso soup. It's very heartwarming sort of stuff. And it was a really cold day that day. So it kind of really hit the spot. And basically, yeah, they're sort of hand making hundreds of these things every day. And there's a whole bunch of different flavors. The flavors change daily. So for example, one of our other favorite Sydney venues, Charco Bar, they were sort of doing some like collaborations with them. So there was like a char siu, sort of a ramen pork filled one. There was like a yakitori style chicken one. And then like you've got the classics like grilled cod roe. Was there salmon as well? Salmon, a few other things?
I had a tuna mayo one, which was lovely, simple, and really delicious.
Yeah, perfect. And then you can get coffee as well, that kind of thing. And there's like kind of little Japanese sweets too, like matcha cookies, all that kind of thing. And it's a really tiny little space. But yeah, huge flavors, big crowds.
They have these rolls, and I wasn't going to get one. And I saw one of the egg ones at the counter, and I was instantly influenced. They look like cartoon pictures of sandwiches. Just the most perfect little sort of hot dog style rolls that you'll ever see in your life, split directly down the middle and absolutely heaving with, I had a prawn cocktail one. There's one of those, an egg one, which is like creamy egg deliciousness.
There are also sweet ones with kind of strawberries that I know are just, yeah, that makes me want to visit.
That one.
So at Broadsheet, we obviously cover when new cafes open, and often they can be very, very busy. But then it's interesting to see months later whether or not those places are still bringing in the crowds. So let's talk about a place in Leichhardt, Don Panino, which we know was very, very busy when it first opened. Is it still good now?
I think it's probably the hotspot in Leichhardt now. Obviously, huge Italian community in Leichhardt, and Don Panino is it's run by an Italian guy, Dom, and yeah, just totally leaning into his heritage, and it's really speaking to the community. It's a real vibe. Sinatra on the radio, and like big sort of Italian sandwiches, glasses of wine, red wine for lunch, and it's definitely, I would say, probably one of the busiest venues in Leichhardt now.
Another place that I'd say has kind of transformed a corner of one of the inner west suburbs is Hearth, run by Christopher Tay. He has opened this particular cafe, and it is a popular spot for those people having coffee in Stanmore every single morning. But also lots of people are coming in from other places because he's making beautiful cheesecake with Geraldton wax, that kind of thing. So he's looking at native ingredients and transforming desserts. Have you been back to Hearth recently?
Yeah, I did go for a coffee recently. I can ride past there on the way to work. It's right on the bike path. Yeah, I think you're right. It's created like a destination out of this really sort of, pretty, beautiful little corner site there in Stanmore. And the great thing about Hearth now is that if you're not a local, you can get these amazing baked goods, cakes delivered. So I think it's like a 50-kilometer radius, and like if you're not up for traveling, you can still experience what Christopher's doing, which is he's one of the great patissiers, cake makers in the country. So you can definitely get a taste of it even if you don't live in the inner west.
Yeah, he really wanted to kind of spend a bit of time perfecting a few of those recipes before he kind of scaled up, and I'm so pleased that he has offered delivery now, which is one of the reasons why it's made the list. Are there any cafes that have opened this year where you just think, damn, that's where I want to go on Sunday morning?
Oh, yeah, I want to give a shout out to Self-Raised Bread in Carlton. If you're chasing a sandwich on a Sunday, that place has got to be the GOAT of sandwiches in Sydney right now. It's just, these things are cartoon big. They just look like a picture. The cross sections going on are just, so much care has been put into the building of these sandwiches. We call Subway staff sandwich artists. I think the real artists are in Carlton.
Heard it here first.
Yeah.
So far, these places that we've added to the list have been mostly about the food. Obviously, we're going for coffee as well. But the main reason to visit is what they're plating up. Somewhere that we might go to, or that we've added to this list for the coffee, is Padre in 5 Ways. Dan, you wrote the story on this one. Remind us about Padre.
So Padre are a sort of a Melbourne roaster, one of the favourites down there. And they do have a little operation up in Noosa as well, but they've never sort of forayed into Sydney. Our sort of coffee roasting scene is pretty set in stone here. We haven't really had too much moving and shaking in the last couple of years. And yeah, we're kind of due for sort of a new player to come in and sort of, mix things up a bit. So these guys are doing just that. And there's a really pretty little store down at the 5 Ways.
Another place that I feel like we should definitely shout out are all the new openings at Sydney Place. So that's down in the CBD near Circular Quay, where a lot of places have opened up like a second venue. Think Load Pies. There's also Costa's takeaway sandwiches. I was at Costa's recently and got a whopping great big sandwich. I think that is a great addition to Sydney.
Which sandwich did you get?
I got the deli sandwich.
Oh, good.
With extra chili. And
Perfect.
I had half of it, and then I had to save the other half for another day. I just couldn't finish it. It was so big.
I actually love being defeated by a good sandwich. It's just like, you're like, this was enough food. There's nothing worse than leaving a cafe feeling hungry. So it's almost a win when you've got some left over.
Well, we've touched on the best cafes to open in 2023 so far. Obviously, we'll put together the full list in December. You can also find all the details at broadsheet.com.au, and we'll put a link up here as well. Thanks for coming in, Dan. Thanks for coming in, Lucy.
Thanks, Emma.
Thanks, Emma.
And that's all we have time for today. As always, you can keep up to date with what's happening around Sydney at broadsheet.com.au and on Instagram at broadsheet_Sid. I'll be back again next week. Same time, same place. Chat then.